Hey guys, welcome back. How are we on? Am I blocking the CREB logo?
No, you're perfect. You're perfect.
Oh, CREB.
There you go.
There we go. That's better. Guys, thank you for everybody who's here today. It's definitely an important conversation. This is Cliff. Cliff's a pretty big deal. Cliff is our CREB president.
Doesn't mean anything.
2 more days only, though.
2 days.
The tenure's running out.
You guys are done with me in 2 days.
It's awesome.
Wow.
I'm going to hiding.
Cliff, you've done such a good job. First
Yeah,
of all,
thank you for
that.
your service, Cliff.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it a lot. It's been fantastic.
Are you ready for it to be over?
I'm looking forward to a little bit more free time, I guess. But you know, I can honestly say I'll really miss it.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed the experience. I've enjoyed the member engagement, the good and the bad, and the frustrating and the not so frustrating. I'll miss it, but I'm looking forward to Dave Brown stepping in and supporting him this year.
And he's such a great guy.
Yeah, great guy, and he'll be a great president. And he's got a lot of support behind him, both with the staff and the board of directors. So
fantastic.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to having a little bit more free time.
No way to end your tenure than with lockboxes.
Oh, exciting subject. No, it's all good. Happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
Cliff is here because, as all of you know, because you've all been watching the feeds, there's been a lot of chatter within the company and on some of our different communication feeds about concerns over lockboxes. Everything kind of started to come up with the global news report. It seemed like there was a lot of silence, and then that happened, and then everybody had a comment. So, Cliff, just in general, can you just speak to that global news report a little bit from your perspective and what happened there? Because there's a lot of misinformation, clearly.
There really is. Let me start with a little show and tell, if it's okay with you guys.
We have a very special guest on our meeting today.
Our special guest today is the lockbox that was actually featured on the Global News story. And
this thing is beat to...
This has been worked over pretty good. And this is interesting because this lockbox, and you may have seen this already in the CREB publication that we sent out on Friday, but this lockbox wasn't actually on the home of the unfortunate couple that got broken into. It wasn't on their home. So Global put this up there, and it seemed to everybody like this was the lockbox. They broke into this lockbox. They accessed the home, and the home was vandalized or robbed. So that wasn't the case. This was actually found on the passenger side of the person who was arrested for the burglary in his car, okay? Now, here's the most important part about this. You can hear that. The key's still in it.
The key is still in the box.
Okay. Now, as badly as
if the key don't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah, if the glove don't fit, yeah. Nice one. And it's really tough to see, and there's some photos here that you guys might be able to put up on the screen, but there is, if there's one of the photos in particular.
Go ahead, Kelly.
If you look in there, you'll see that gray piece in there, that inside piece. You recognize that from when you open the lockbox to put your keys in there. That is where the key still resides. The key is still in there. This individual that tried to break into this lockbox was very aggressive, as you can see from some of the other pictures that Kelly's got there as well, but was unable to get the key. Now, I've seen some comments on your Facebook page. We've already acknowledged that those were out there, and I had the chance to read them. And I've heard things about, you know, there's a 50-50 chance of success of this working, and the fact that these are not as secure as Super and the whole bit. We had a member...
Somebody beat this with a metal bat for a minute and did not get the key.
Yeah, well, we had a member of the Break-and-Enter Task Force for the Calgary Police Service acknowledge to us in a discussion with them after that they saw these as more secure than the Super lockboxes. Now, listen, that's one person's opinion. I totally get it. And don't get me wrong, there is no lockbox on the planet that is 100% secure. Okay? It's not going to happen. But we are very comfortable with the security of this particular lockbox, and that's why part of the criteria for the decision we made originally. But the important part here too is the break-and-enter story in Global News, when they were talking to this couple, they have not recovered the lockbox that was actually on their property. So at this point in time, they're not definitively stating that the lockbox was broken into and the key was stolen from there, because it's difficult. You're connecting some dots there, making some assumptions. Yes. So I'm not here to say it was or wasn't, or did or didn't happen. Not at all. It's just I think there was a lot of confusion in that story in how it was presented, and our members sort of taking that, and then more importantly, the members of the public that were told about ways to break in and weak spots in the lockbox and where to access things. He's still in this. Yeah. It was a sensationalized story. And don't get me wrong, I have had enough exposure to the media this past year and a lot of really great experiences to understand how that all works.
Yep.
But just so our members know, this is the lockbox, the key's still in it, and this has been gone. I know there was somebody on your page that suggested that they were going to take one of their own lockboxes and do some tests. What it's going to look like this, and chances are
the key's still going to be in
very
it.
difficult time getting that key out.
All right, so great. They're tough to break into when latched properly, but we're having other issues. Lockboxes are falling open. A bunch of issues. It's minus 20 in Calgary. It's too cold. Take us through some of the most common questions and stuff, then, and let's address them. Kind of bang them off.
For sure. Let's start with the cold. Comments like these lockboxes must only have been tested in Florida.
Yeah.
Right? Can't have been here. So we have these lockboxes have been in use in Alaska. Let's start with that one.
No, but Calgary's got to be colder than Alaska.
No, this week maybe.
Yeah.
Thunder Bay, Winnipeg uses them as well.
Oh, Winnipeg.
Yeah, and Prince George.
I've seen Winnipeg.
Right. So these have been out there for quite a while in very, very cold climates. They also have a very, very rigorous test process. We sent out some communication on Friday. And by the way, I would recommend every single one of your agents go look at the communication we sent out. It's not going to answer every question.
Of course.
And this really is, we talked about this at the board last week when the staff was putting this together. It's a bit of a working document because there will be updates as we get more feedback in. And we want the input to come in from members. In fact, we've had a couple of your members in particular give us some great feedback on some of the issues they were having, and let's call a spade a spade. There have been some problems. Yeah. But the cold isn't the big driver here, okay? So to give you an example, Winnipeg's been using these throughout this winter as well as us. And they gave us some information here a couple days ago that they've had 10 total complaints from people that thought it was the weather that was causing a problem with the lockbox. Their hunch is that there was more user error involved in that, but 10 total complaints, okay? I don't have the number of lockboxes they have to sort of give you some context on what that number looks like as a percentage, but not a ton. But the important part about the cold piece is, as you can see, I mean, if you're looking at, there is a rubber seal on these lockboxes. I've had I guess the good fortune of showing a couple of dozen properties since January 2nd of this year myself. And I've been going around in this cold and doing some tests, and if you do put the door up on the lockbox after you use it, you can get it to stay up there and not actually do anything to make it click.
Right.
And then if you take two hands and you close it, you will hear it click. And I would make an assumption that's from some cold rubber.
Cold rubber, yeah,
get in there and click. And by the way, saw one post on your forum, do not use Vaseline on that rubber seal, okay? Do not put anything, oil, anything on there. There's strict instructions with Central Lock to not put anything on there. But anyways, there is a right way and a wrong way to do this. And to say that it's just the cold and these things are failing is not correct. Has that been the cause for some lockboxes to go a little bit haywire? Potentially. We sent out some communication earlier, sometime in December, I believe, or maybe even November. There was an expected failure rate. There's an allowance, if you will, when you roll out lockboxes like this.
Of course.
We've done approximately 30,000 lockboxes. So in this case, you have all of the complaints coming out at once and all these issues coming out at once, and everybody sees it all at once, opposed to Supra, where we had sort of the staggered issues as time went on.
Well, pause on that for a second, because I think that's a really good point. So, and maybe you can come back to this, but a lot of the issues that we're seeing on this, it's cold and it's not opening. This doesn't seem safe, or this wasn't closed properly. You saw that, and the board had comments and complaints about that with the old lock boxes, the exact same ones. It just wasn't as loud because you dropped it. Is that correct? Yeah, so I'll give you the best example I can, and one closest to home. January 2016, I had a super lockbox that was broken into on one of my listings in Sunnyside. The individual got the key out, went into my client's unit, robbed the unit, took the fob down to the parkade, and vandalized a whole bunch of cars and stole things from inside cars inside the parkade. So those things have happened in the past with the previous lockboxes, okay? One of the issues that we came to understand in the exchange process was the number of members that referred to the fact that they'd had issues with the previous lockboxes but had never reported it. And if I can leave anything with you today, it's to encourage all of your members to communicate the issues that they're having with the lockboxes, and that's coming across loud and clear, we're getting that. But also if they have any issues with respect to vandalism, break-ins, whatever, make sure CREB reports it. Absolutely. Because here's my transparent comment for the day. In being so critical of people not reporting things to the lockbox, having talked about it at this point in time and based on the security conversations we're having,
I realized I didn't even report mine.
Oh no.
So I had this big break-in.
Yeah.
I had all this, I had the police involved. My client was involved. Everything was taken care of on that end.
Yeah.
But I neglected to report it to CREB, and I'm the CREB president. So that wasn't so smart. But we need to hear that stuff, right? We need to get the reports. We do understand that there were problems prior to the launch of new lockboxes, and I think when you have 30,000 flooding, and there's change, and there's lots of members that just haven't liked the change, and I get that. But this commentary gets fairly sensational, and it gets compounded, and people sort of pile on. We are really happy with the way this is right now. What we're not happy with, and this is sort of where I was going before we switch gears there, it's expected that around 1% is an acceptable sort of failure rate, if you will. The lock boxes are tested twice, once when they leave central lock and once when they leave the board. To have 1% of 30,000 lock boxes, you can do the math and you can figure out that number. We're seeing a higher number than the 1%. And Central Lock has come to the table and said, yeah, we've done some analysis on some of the boxes you guys have returned. There is you can see the technical issue in the communication, but there's a crimping of a wire scenario one, leaving lock boxes open on some of these. So as of January 3rd, we've had 554 lock boxes that have been returned, and that gives us a failure rate of about 1.72%. That's higher than Central Lock expected to see, and it's definitely higher than we expected to see. So let's be clear about this. Let's call a spade a spade. There are some issues with some of these lock boxes that we did not expect to see. When this happens, if there is a problem with the lockbox, and yes, I've heard about the 50-minute drives to your listings to go deal with these issues, and it sucks. But we want to make sure that those get removed. It won't be a cost to the member, and we'll have it replaced out, and everything will be okay. But let me address one other comment that I saw on your page, and that was when there was a comment about somebody who had shown a property and left the lockbox open because they couldn't get it closed, and as they were leaving, the key was open. I would just recommend that we all help each other out here.
Yeah,
as industry members,
absolutely.
You should be contacting Central Lock first if you can stand in front of the lockbox and be of any assistance to the other member. That's definitely something I would do. And if that's not physically possible, if there's something you have to go and do, whatever it is, you may want to talk to the realtor right away and maybe offer to take the key with you. Yeah. Leaving it in an open lockbox if they're open for anybody to come and grab is not the best play. So just some suggestions on some things that you may come across from a lockbox failure. Goodness knows there were a number of previous lockboxes that we had used that were frozen shut, and I couldn't get that metal container out when it was really cold. So things are going to happen. We just need to work with each other and help each other out.
Mind? Yeah, okay. Go ahead.
I just want to speak again to this communication that CREB sent out, and the way, if people are asking where it is, well, Century Lock has a page. You guys have a Lockbox Hub page on CREB, but also in CREB Talk this past week, there has been lots of communication, as we said. So it's so important that your job, your career, the body that provides you tools, CIR, in addition to CREB, it sends out communication on this stuff. So one of the things that CREB sent out in CREB Talk, which is fantastic, is this FAQ. And this FAQ addresses, these questions address almost every issue that we heard. Yeah. Now, my only criticism of this, and there's a couple different ways around them. First of all, my thoughts on this, NAR has over 1 million members. And now not all of them are using the Century Lock technology, but there's hundreds of thousands of realtors using this from Alaska to Florida to everywhere in between. So weather taken out of the equation. So this has been a proven concept that's not just rudimentary, and CREB did no research and no testing, and then all of a sudden it comes out. So let's trust our elected delegates in this. Some of these processes in this are a little bit complex. It's going to take a little bit of time to learn to stick your credit card in when it's locked. After 20 minutes, I used to take my the Supra lock or the Supra lockbox out, set it in my shoe, and then take it into show, and then come back out and lock it up again. Well, now you need to lock it up because if you're in the property longer than 20 minutes, you read the communication, educate yourself on this.
Can I jump in on that one point for 1 second? So I did a little experiment before coming on today. Nice. And I went through the activity log of my lockboxes. So in the dozens of showings that I've had since we went into on my own personal listings, since we switched over to Central Lock, I found 4 realtors that had actually closed the lockbox after pulling the key out of the lockbox in dozens of showings. You need to be very clear as well. When you get the key out, you are supposed to close that immediately, right away. Yes. Okay? After you've heard the mechanism all work and you put it in and you close it up again. Then when you come back out and you put the key back in, you access the lockbox again, put it in. A significant number and a high percentage of members are just leaving this open the entire time. You run into that hard lock issue potentially, but you also run into the fact that you're leaving that door open potentially to the elements, right?
Yes.
And that's not a good thing to have that going into the interior of the lockbox. So there are, I'm going to say, if I had to do the math, 95% plus of the members that have shown my listings have not accessed the lockbox twice as showing.
So that
just wanted to say, as far as education piece is concerned, we're trying to get that out there. It's been in the communication since the very beginning that it should be open twice when they access the property. Another tip just to leave behind for you, please ensure that you are accessing it twice when you're showing the property.
Well, one of the big, and Cliff and I mentioned this just really quick.
Yeah, please.
One of the things that I had said was, I would be frustrated if I knew how to do it correctly, and I knew all of the rules, I read the training properly, but despite my best efforts, there was still risk because somebody else wasn't doing it properly. So there's two parts to that. What's CREB going to do to try and increase training? But the second one is, it's pretty darn simple in the showing comments, if you want to leave something, to say, hey, just a reminder, when you get to the property, this is how to access the lockbox correctly, and this is how to close it correctly.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's on you. So if you know how, and the other person, because you're right, you can't control if the other person has done it or not, but you can definitely control if they do it, if you put it in your notes. So do that, and it starts with you to make sure you're doing this. And unfortunately, going through the Facebook feed, there's a lot of our own agents that obviously aren't doing this correctly either. So it starts with you, and then once you know, make sure that you're informing other people.
Mm-hmm. Cliff, just brainstorming here and talking and educate me. I don't show property the same way you guys have. I have read through all the FAQs. I understand there's procedures here, but in a day-to-day practical analysis, a couple ideas I think out loud. What I want to do is for our realtors to protect your clients further. Number one, they have said in here, leave your security system running, things like that. But beyond the break-in issue, which was an issue in the previous system too, on this lockbox, now the lockboxes are in better condition than this one, but could you use a label maker, or could you put a tag on the shackle or something with additional instructions saying, press very firmly to close with both hands and close lockbox while you're in the property. And two very big reminders on that for members who walk up and say, oh, okay, here's the thing as an educational point. Is there room in the lockbox that they might be able to do something like that?
I've seen marketing companies making wraps with these already.
Right.
So, I mean, you probably infringe on where you want to market on and what you want to say on there, but these are all great ideas. I mean, these are, if you think that that's going to be a benefit to help ensure that the realtors are clear on how to operate the lockbox,
yeah,
have at her. I mean, the instructions piece is brilliant, right? I mean, you can send off the instructions, and at the bottom it's sort of the fine details, but you've said, please close firmly with both hands, yeah, please access my lockbox twice for your showing, whatever the case may be. But you're right, this is an education piece. And the biggest challenge for any board, yes, any association, anywhere, is member engagement and communication back and
Absolutely.
Forth. So we've pumped out some pieces, and that's why I refer to this as a bit of a working document, because we'll continue to do that, and we'll continue to keep them up to date on things that we're hearing and responses and how to address some of these issues potentially. But I want to be clear, I mean, I'm not here to say that the people that have expressed concern with problems with lockboxes haven't had problems with lockboxes.
Of course.
And I'm not here to say that everything that they've assessed as being the reason for the problem is incorrect. I'm not here to say that at all. I am here to suggest that there is a significant number of issues that I would suggest are user error generated issues.
Absolutely, yeah.
I definitely wanted to address the security argument here, because we've seen that for sure, and how to operate and in the cold weather, just to address that concern as well, because I know a lot of people are sort of referring to the fact that these haven't been used in cold climates. That's just not the case.
Well, we have realtors, and it seems like there's some conversations being like, well, I should be giving my client an option as far as what lockbox they should be using, or I'm not going to use these ones, or it's up to me to explain all of the risks involved. You're obviously a realtor. This matters to you too. Mm-hmm. If you had to say, okay, it's important to me, whether it is or not, you have to say it's important to me to let somebody know that there is a bit of a failure rate or something that could happen, what is the best way to explain that to a client that's accurate and isn't going to inspire fear in something with a 2%, not even a 2% failure rate? Like, how would you do that properly?
Well, I mean, I'm not so sure I'd be leading with any kind of conversation that refers to any kind of problems or errors or whatever it is. Yeah. if this is a concern and if the concern has been heightened a little bit by a news article or a news story.
So maybe that's it. The client watched Global and they say to you, I watched the Global report. What do you have to say about it?
I would suggest it's probably prudent to have, if you're talking about the fact that they're going to sign a contract in front of you that authorizes a lockbox to be installed. Having a lockbox on you, allowing the consumer to have a look at it, might be a start. To sit there and get talking about the failure rates and the security and the level 2 police security in the United Kingdom for the rating, it's a really challenging conversation. And quite frankly, in my 11 years in this industry, I've actually never had that conversation personally with a client. Even after having the break-in last January, I still haven't had that conversation. So I think that's a challenge. I think that you guys as a brokerage could probably help drive what that conversation may look like if you had some ideas on how to speak to that. The bottom line is we have a lockbox that has been approved for CREB use. And when your clients sign that listing contract and they sign saying we authorize the installation of a lockbox, that is the lockbox they're authorizing to be installed. No other lockbox.
Yes.
There is a provincial rule, and I was just scrolling here on my phone because if you saw the communication on Friday, it is Practice Rule 8.03. All members shall use board-approved lockboxes on all property listings where they are requested by the seller. Okay? If there's any type of security conversation for your clients and you have a problem with this, the problem you're going to run into is you're not going to be able to provide them with a better alternative.
Yeah.
Okay? So what else are you going to say? If a client says, I don't want this lockbox, what else can you give me? To say you're going to go to construction lockbox at Canadian Tire, I can assure you it's no more secure than this lockbox.
Totally.
So
the due diligence hasn't been
So
done.
now you back yourself into a corner where you cannot sit there and now stake your claim and make a guarantee that you're going to put a better solution on their property, and you're contravening one of the provincial harmonized rules here. How do you answer that? So if a client has a significant problem with a lockbox, be careful putting yourself in a dangerous position by saying you've got a better option for them.
Yep.
Okay? And the second thing is, they may want you to be present for showings. And you know what? You talk to the members of downtown Vancouver who don't work with lockboxes at all, and that's just the way they would operate. Sometimes that really sucks. But you know what? Working in our clients' best interest and doing what our clients instruct us to do and what we need to do to get the job done for them, sometimes that may be a reality. Don't get me wrong. When I see a member of yours saying they have to drive 50 minutes to go fix a lockbox scenario, that's not an ideal situation. Yeah. But we've chosen what we think is the best solution for members, and it's the central lock.
And imagine doing that for every showing. You have to drive 50 minutes. That's to fix one, possibly defective, possibly whatever it happens to be. But imagine showing every single property.
So, Kirsten, I guess the answer to your question is I think it's a dangerous conversation to have because I don't think our members
That's a great answer.
Are positioned to be able to provide them with any other option that is more secure than what we have.
Great, I'm glad. So just to kind of finish it up, and this might be really, really basic, but sometimes basic is good. From the time you get to the house to the time you leave the house and you hear the click, just quickly explain what should happen with a lockbox. You pull up to the house.
So one other caveat I want to make before we even started. I'm not tech support. I'm not Central Lock staff. So,
no.
But here's how it works for me. Okay. I go to the house. I activate the lockbox. I enter my code. The lockbox door drops open. I take the key. You wait for the mechanism to reload. You'll hear it doing it while the door is open. I take the door. I close it. I squeeze it with both hands, and I hear an audible click.
An audible click.
Okay. And the click is, you can hear it. In my testing, I did put doors up and they stayed, and they weren't clicked.
Yes.
So I click them in this cold weather, and everything's fine. I go show the property. I come back out. I wake up the lockbox again, access the lockbox, comes in, put the key back in, wait for the mechanism to load up again, close the door, click. Okay? Because of your message board, I have been giving a quick little tug on the top just to ensure that the click grabbed in the whole bit. And I've done that on every single showing I've done in this new year. I will be totally transparent again and say I didn't always do that prior to now, but I'm making sure I do it. And I think that's just probably a best practice scenario to get used to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Now listen, there's
I don't know yet. I haven't looked at the comments.
I'm sure there's a bunch saying this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
I'll tell you what we are going to do, though.
Client this,
as a brokerage, I'm going to commit two things to you guys. We are going to, number one, send out this FAQ as part of our trivia email that we send out with all the trivia answers in there.
Let's post this on our What You Need to Know on our virtual
We're
office.
also going to post on the What You Need. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. And we are going to assess, I'm going to take a look at a lockbox and assess some labeling concepts through the custom labeling. Studio 4 does some incredible lockbox labels as well. And so we're going to look and say, okay, what can be done on here to help educate a realtor on to press hard and click, and also to not leave the lockbox open while they're inside the property. Yeah. So we're going to do a few education pieces on that, figure out how to do it. But in your comments, in your showing remarks, when you respond to showings on touch base, put a little bit of lockbox instruction in there, and I think you're going to go a long way to helping the industry better operate. And
again, Cliff, kind of in closing, someone has a problem with a lockbox, call CREB.
Member practice for sure right away.
Yeah. And change the lockbox out. So you guys are happy to do it.
Yeah, and Paula Kanesh at the board. If you can get Paula Kanesh on the phone, she is unbelievably helpful. She knows all about central lock, backwards, forwards, sideways. She's really, really good at what she does. She will help you with whatever your issue is, and they'll make sure that it's painless. One last piece that you need to highlight in the communication, just so everybody knows, there were some comments on your message board about the fact that when members were returning their active keys from the previous system, that if they didn't have the plug-in, the charger, the little pouch, and the whole bit, and people were joking about the pouch 8 years ago, have no idea where it went. By the way, I'm in the same boat. No idea. The board has looked at that, and if anybody was penalized or charged for any of those accessories, they will get a credit on their bill. It's just the active key that we need back that's going to be the big piece. The charges for the accessories is being reversed, so that won't affect members.
Thank you.
Because that is tough to find after.
Will they have to contact you about getting the charge reversed, or will it happen automatically?
God, no.
Not you.
No,
not
don't.
you.
Nobody.
CREB.
Yeah,
but do they need to contact if they see that charge?
What's that?
If they see that charge, do they have to contact, or are
it's
you guys
automatically
just gonna,
being done.
Perfect. So they don't need to worry about it.
And if there was any concern, they can address it with CREB, and I'm sure.
Yeah, don't call Cliff. Cliff only has 2 days left. Let's make it easy for him.
It's all good.
Cliff, thank you so much for your time.
No worries, my pleasure.
Kirsten, what are we doing here? Are we going to let them go and revisit this next meeting?
Yeah, let's let the people go.
Okay, let my people go. So
no, I think it's good to end on this, and the next topic is community and real estate is important. We will for sure put that into one of our next 2 weeks for meetings. Absolutely. So you guys, thank you so much for tuning in. In the new year, hope you guys had a great holiday, and Cliff, thank you for coming on and taking the time. The research you did on this, looking at our members' comments and feedback has been great. So
my pleasure. And to those people that have experienced the problems with lockboxes, I'm sorry it's happened.
Yes.
I'm really sorry it's happened. They exist. It's real. We're doing our best to get this.
Yeah. The point is not to acknowledge that something hasn't gone awry here, and all the comments are valid, whether it be user error or not. But we want to do our best to educate you guys. So thank you so much again. Awesome. All right. We'll see you guys next week. See you next week.